Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our online teaching academy, Ekaleva. Cbse Class 12 Economics. Chapter Rural Development. It is one of the challenges facing the Indian economy. This video covers the major issues associated with rural development, sources of credit, and categories of rural credit. The future of India lies in its villages, is rightly said by Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation. So, once the villages are developed, the country also develops. Let me now explain the meaning of rural development. The real growth of India lies in the growth and development of rural areas. Rural development is an action plan for the social and economic growth of the rural areas. Rural development essentially focuses on action for the development of areas that are lagging behind in the village economy. The action plan is to focus on the challenges in rural areas. A few areas that are lagging behind are means of transport, like roadways, railways, waterways, then provision of power, irrigation facilities, water supply, sanitation, educational facilities, etc. Let us now discuss the key areas or the challenges. One of the main challenges in rural areas is the development of human resources. Education and skill development should be given importance in rural areas. Then there should be development in productive resources. There should be productive resource development in rural areas such that the available resources are used at an optimum level. The third one is the development in infrastructural facilities. Infrastructure facilities like transport, irrigation facilities, communication, credit, and financing should be developed, emphasizing access to productive employment opportunities. Rural development will generate more employment opportunities for rural people. Disguised unemployment and seasonal unemployment prevails in agricultural sector. Hence, the government has to take steps to improve the job opportunities in rural areas. The next is the provision of adequate credit. Credit is needed by a farmer in rural areas to buy fertilizers, pesticides, seeds, and pump set, etc. There's a gap between the sowing and the realization of cash. Hence, credit facility is the lifeline for the farmers. Improvement in agricultural marketing. Agricultural marketing systems safeguard the interest of the farmers. Development in physical infrastructure facilities such as roadways, seaways, warehouses, processing system, and other cold storage facilities, etc., would improve agricultural marketing system. Provision for health facility. Proper and timely medical care facilities to be provided to the people in rural areas. Improving standard of living. Improvement in the living conditions of the weaker sections of the people residing in rural areas should be taken care. And the last challenge is providing opportunities for education. So, government has to open up schools in rural areas, and that would lead to the overall development of socio-economic conditions of the people. All these key areas should be focused for development in rural areas. Hence, focus on rural development is indeed very important and vital for a nation's development. Sources of rural credit. Most of the people in rural areas depend on agriculture. Agriculture requires credit facility for buying improved quality of seeds, cattle, pump sets, purchase of tractors, fertilizers, threshers, etc. Hence, credit is the lifeline of farming activity in rural areas. The credit facilities in rural areas can be classified into institutional and non institutional sources. The institutional sources are the modern sources, whereas the non institutional sources are the traditional sources of credit. The institutional sources include commercial banks, development banks, cooperative banks, etc. And the non institutional sources include the money lenders, traders, relatives, friends, and landlords, etc. When farmers borrow money from these non institutional sources, they are forced to pay high rate of interest for the borrowed sum. Farmers who availed credit from institutional sources had to pay only a reasonable rate of interest. The twofold problems of rural credit. Institutional sources of credit are less in number in the rural areas and they are not easily accessible, whereas non institutional sources of credit are more in number, but they charge high rate of interest. They exploit the farmers. This would lead even to debt trap. They also follow corrupt practices. And so the farmers who borrow money from non institutional sources suffer a lot. Categories of rural credit. The institutional structure of rural banking consists of a set of institutions like the commercial banks, RRBs, that is regional rural banks, cooperatives, land development banks, etc. There are three categories. There are three different types of loans provided to fulfill the needs of the farmers. They are the short term loans, medium term loans, and the long term loans. The short term credit stretches over a period of 6 to 12 months. This loan amount is used for the purchase of farm inputs, like seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, etc. The medium term loan stretches for a period ranging 12 months to 5 years. It means 1 year to 5 years. This is required by a farmer for the purchase of machinery or for construction of fences and digging of wells. The long period loans are required for purchase of additional land or for improvement on existing land. And this ranges for a period between 5 years to 20 years. Sources of agricultural finance through institutional credit. The rural cooperative institutions. They are an important source of credit to farmers. They provide short term and medium term loans to farmers. The cooperative structure was a failure in India due to the mounting overdues. Then, in 1955, the State Bank of India was set up. Apart from its normal banking activities like accepting deposits and lending loans, It was entrusted with rural credit. In 1969, 14 banks were nationalized. These banks opened many branches in rural areas to help the small and marginal farmers. In 1974, the regional rural banks known as the RRBs were set up. Their aim was to promote credit facilities to people in the remote rural areas. They supplemented the commercial banks. They received deposits from the customers and lent loans to borrowers. In 1982, the NABARD was set up, that is, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. This is an apex institution which coordinates the rural financing activities of all credit institutions. In 1998-99, the Kisan credit card schemes were introduced. It aims at adequate and timely support of credit to the marginal farmers. SHG, it means self-help groups. Self-help groups and microcredit programs. How does this play an important role in rural credit? SHGs and microcredit programs are an emerging phenomenon in the context of rural credit. They have emerged recently to improve the economic condition of the rural people. And these self-help groups, they promote thrift among rural households. Thrift is the habit of saving. Each member of the self-help group contribute a small portion of amount, and this contributed amount is pooled together and given to the person who needs credit facilities. Small savings are mobilized by the self-help groups and offered as credit to its different members depending on their need. Credit is sanctioned to the members who have an urgent need of finance, and then the loan can be repaid in small installments at reasonable rate of interest. These self-help groups have helped in the empowerment of women in rural areas. The Poor Women's Bank. Kudumbashree is a women-oriented community-based poverty reduction program being implemented in Kerala. In 1995, a thrift and credit society was started as a small savings bank for poor women with the objective to encourage savings. This aims to enhance the women's economic development, and this enables women to become active citizens. These societies are the largest informal banks in Asia in terms of savings they have mobilized. Rural banking system in India has expanded since nationalization of 14 major commercial banks in 1969. The rural credit system in India has emerged as the lifeblood of the Indian farmers, and this is due to the key role played by the Reserve Bank of India. To receive our online lessons, please press the subscribe button and you will receive the latest updates. Thank you.